Hi there. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Sean Connor, principal of Zionsville Middle School. I recently sat down with the group of 5 Zionsville Middle School math teachers and asked them a series of questions about Aleks. What follows are their responses.
Well, I think that when we looked at the possibility for the program, we saw the potential that it had for our kids because of how it puts them into the program where they are individually. And so it lets them work at their own pace. And it differentiates for the students so that you can have students at all different levels, but they're all consistently advancing, and it just really catches those skills and those gaps that the kids have developed through the years and helps them to develop those skills, those prerequisites that they need before they get to the difficult content.
I feel like we chose the Aleks program because it allows us to do differentiated instruction and differentiated assessment testing to the nth degree, to a much higher capability than we can do as human beings ourselves. We've been trying to track each student's individual data and helping them to understand how to accomplish as many standards as they can throughout the course of the year, and Aleks allows us to do that much more efficiently.
We chose Aleks because as compared to a traditional textbook, Aleks will allow every student to work at their own level and their own speed. Aleks has built in an unlimited number of examples for every single problem, which a textbook does not have. You know, it's limited. And since it will allow every student to work at their own speed, every student can be in a different place at the same time where they need to be, which that can't happen with a textbook. From the teacher's perspective, Aleks provides us with data that we would never get from a textbook. We can see what percentage of standards have been mastered by a student. We can see exactly what each student is ready to learn. We can see how much time they've spent in Aleks just from an effort perspective.
Each year as we go through textbook adoption, it's a repeat of the same thing. It seems to be which text, I'm going to say this anyway, seems the least problematic, the one that would have the most for our kids, but it never has everything that we need. Aleks doesn't have everything that we need either. But what we liked about that is there's an immediate feedback aspect to it that the kids appreciate. They know immediately, I don't understand this yet. And that's the beauty of it. It's not that I never will understand this, it's I don't understand this yet. And what Aleks does is not let them forget that they don't understand this yet. And probably that's the part that kids like least about it, is that it holds them accountable for skills that build on each other and help them get to the higher skills. So we chose it mainly because it had been piloted with tremendous success over at Zionsville West. It had been piloted in our own building, and the results were pretty impressive for the amount that students learned math. And it will hold no one back from going as far as they can go. A textbook has a beginning and an end. Aleks has continuum that we can take them to whatever level or course that they need.
I would say the biggest reason why we chose Aleks is because the differentiation with the students, the ability to access math at any level for any student at any time, it's pretty priceless. A typical math class involves maybe having a pre-assessment to figure out where the students are in their knowledge of the material, and then we separate into groups based on their learning and figure out what exactly they need to be focusing on so that they can really figure out what to go from there. So everybody's working at their own level. They may start kind of on our own level of where we place them, but then we get to move them about the classroom however that works for them. So it's different as opposed to teaching the entire class the same concept and expecting everybody to be at the same level.
Yesterday in my math class was an Aleks day, so the kids are on their computers working on individual standards, and I went through 5 lessons, so 5 different standards. One of them was almost a whole group lesson, like almost all the students needed that particular standard, so we did a lesson, we took some notes, did some practice, and then those students went back to their seat to practice that standard on Aleks. In the meantime, other students are coming up after that for another lesson, and then we went through the other 4 lessons in that same way. And then after that, I'm just floating around answering kids' questions as they have them, as they are practicing standards to add to their pie.
Well, the students spend a lot of time doing just independent learning, and so they're on the program and they have somewhat of a choice in what they're focusing on, and they could be many different things, but I spend most of my time just going around to all the individual students and answering their individual questions where they are, and so the students spend a lot of the time just working at their own pace, and I do a lot with the small groups, so I'll bring 3 or 4 kids back for a topic that they're ready to learn and just spend some time teaching them. So it's changed the environment of the class to where it's more student focused instead of teacher focused. So the kids, it's all about them and where they are in their learning and getting them to progress from that point.
I'll start by saying after 30 years in the classroom almost, it doesn't look like it looked before. Where I did more direct instruction to a whole group and then would say, okay, let's go, and I would still work with small groups. Now that direct instruction is, I see an overarching concept that it seems like much or most of the class is struggling with, and I do a lesson on that. Then they can work independently on that while I am constantly meeting with kids. And I even hate to admit it, but there's more math going on now than there was when you or I were in the classroom. And they have to be active participants. Students have to be active participants all the time. So math class is just chock full of math concepts.
My role as a teacher has evolved from, since I've been doing this for 18 years, what most people would think of as traditional teaching, where you have one topic that would naturally follow another topic and you teach it to the entire class and they practice. It's evolved from that to, there's still some of that necessary, but also now it's more on a need-to-know basis. On Aleks, you can see what students are ready to learn and within a reasonable order teach from there. You can see where the greatest need is and help students with that. The groups can be fluid. I find myself teaching in a whole group environment the traditional way that we would all think of, but also in small group environment where I can call up 15 maybe students who are ready to learn multiplying decimals, work with them, then call up a different group perhaps of 10 students who are ready to learn dividing decimals and work with them, to completely individualized instruction where I can go from student to student to student, all of whom are probably at 27 different levels if it's 27 students, and help every student with a topic that they're ready to learn that perhaps no one else is ready to learn. So it's evolved from whole group, pretty sequential, to still fairly sequential, but a combination of whole group, small group, and individualized instruction.
Much of over the last 3 years, we in 6th grade and trying to get it even beyond that, did quite a bit of analyzing, okay, what are the skills that they need? Let's create these test banks. Let's come up with a recording system for when students have mastered that. And a bulk of my time spent not only worrying about what students had, what standards, but that constant checking to make sure that the students were on the right page or had the right things in their hand. That is kind of done, not for me now, but it is at least I get a bigger picture of what the students know. So my front-loading time is spent creating small groups, jotting down who needs what, and so I can then make a quick assessment of who's going to need my time that day, and my time is totally spent interacting with students.
Well, it's changed the way that the classroom is set up to where it's focused on the kids, and so for me, I could be asked questions about multiple topics, and then I help the students where they are on their Aleks Pie. And so it's really changed the format of the typical lecture where they sit and take notes, and where a lot of kids, some kids get it, some kids don't, some kids are bored and ready to move on to an approach where it's focused on the kid at their own pace where they are, and I kind of meet them where they're at instead of having them come to where the class is.
I would say as a teacher, I actually get to do a lot more teaching because I get to really figure out what the students are lacking and really focus on their individual needs. And this is different because, well, I feel like I have a lot more connection with an individual child instead of the group.
I feel like I'm doing what I tried to do before much more efficiently. So the Aleks program allows me to meet kids' needs more individually with more efficiency. So I can go into my version of Aleks and find exactly which students, say there's 8 of them, that still need to understand multiplying 3-digit numbers. And I can pull them into a small group and work with just them while other kids are working on other things that we have started. In the classroom, it allows me to understand and meet kids' individual needs. Whereas several years ago, you would take paper pencil tests and then you got it or you didn't get it and then you just moved on. I may or may not have known if all my students were understanding it or ready for it, especially if they were quiet. But this way, I've got all the data there. I know if they know it or not and what I need to do in the classroom to help them understand those concepts. What's happening in there, a human being can't do. Like, I don't have time as a human being to make that many assessments unique to each individual and that many reviews for them to be ready for that many individuals. I mean, it's just not possible, and Aleks lets you do that.
Well, it's pretty exciting when the words that kids use when they come to me for help. The success I hear is, could you show me how to do this? Could you teach me this math right now? And they know exactly what it is that they need. I have had a student in the first 2 weeks of school complete the entire review section, which it traditionally could take up to 9 weeks to just fill in any gaps that we had from where we were last year, and he's moved on to the next section already. He doesn't have to wait for us. He knows those skills and he can go on. The other thing I have is students who come back pretty excited. You know, yesterday you showed us unit rates and I finished the whole unit rate section and I get it now. And so there's that piece to it. And not every kid, the challenges have been that not every child loves to do that much math constantly. You know, it's kind of, I'd like to sit here, you show me a few problems and I'll just soak it in that way. So it's the individual learner I still have to be there for those who need my explanation of it, my quirky way of showing them how to do something. Not every child reads as well as Aleks would purport that they can read. So I do spend some time reading to students who are just having difficulty with the reading portion of what's on there. A story problem is a story problem. It has words. And their problem solving on Aleks is pretty intense. So getting beyond the words to, oh, I really do understand the math there, has been a bit of a challenge. But overall, just seeing huge progress and huge gains. I get a report on how much each student has done at the start and how far they've advanced in a day or 2 days. And I will have kids master up to 10 and 11 concepts a day, which is pretty exciting. Now, mind you, that's we have had some basics of this before section, so as we move into the new material, I think it will get a little you know, I may not see those kind of gains immediately, but I think we're moving in the right direction.
Well, successes, I would say, obviously the students who are motivated to work on their own and get to move at their own level and not be held back. But that's also, so that's kind of the top end, but also at the bottom end, I've got students that get to work at the level that they're actually at, and therefore they can feel success as well. As far as the challenges, I would say that it's different. The way everything works is different, and people aren't used to it, and it's different than what the parents are used to. So it's going to be a challenge to get them all on board with it.
So far, I have seen the kids being very motivated. I've seen kids working on topic after topic and coming to me and asking to learn something that's something we're not even there yet for. And I've seen a lot of kids, I've had 3 kids already that have moved to a new PI, and they just keep going, and it's just, they really enjoy it, and they enjoy learning the topics, and they think they're ahead, and they think that's really great, because they are. And I've noticed, like, I had one kid last year who wasn't very motivated, and in class he was a kid that I had to get his attention a lot and make sure he was focused on the problems and keep reminding him to keep working. And so I have him again this year, and I've just noticed how focused he is, and how because it's at his level, it's not above his head like it was before, that he's really into this, and he's learning something every day. So he's having success with the topics that he's working on and adding those to his skills. And for challenges, I would say the biggest challenge is probably a good challenge, because it is having kids in different places, some being more advanced and some still building their skills, is figuring out, well, how to support kids at all different levels. And I think too, being ready for all the different topics can sometimes be a challenge. Just making sure that I'm on it, and I'm ready for any question that the kids would ask me.
The students are super excited. They have a visual representation of where they came into the curriculum, and they can see exactly how far they need to go, and they're motivated by that. They want to add things to their pie. They're like, what section should we be working in? What do you want to, what are you doing today? Kids that are just increasing by tons of percentages. Kids asking, I've already met my goal, what do I do? Obviously, keep going, the more we can cover, the better. Honestly, right now I feel like the biggest challenge is helping kids understand what part of the pie they still need. So I have 5 lessons to do today, and I keep having to go to the list of students and say all their names out loud, because they're like, I don't think I need that one. Like, they don't see it on their pie.
One of the myths is that the teacher just says, kids work on Aleks while she sits at her desk and maybe looks at data that comes through from the Aleks program. For me, I would say that completely the opposite is true. I think I work harder with the kids having Aleks than I ever did before. It is much easier to say in math, today the whole group is doing this topic because this topic naturally follows yesterday's topic, versus what I do now, which is teach and have it perhaps be a different group every single day based on need. Another myth that we can sit behind our computer and look at data, we can, but you can't do that when the kids are in there, because they all need help with different things at the same time. Another myth is that because they're doing math electronically, or at least appears electronically, are they missing the pencil and paper type application? And I know when people say that, they're thinking sometimes you just have to borrow or cross cancel. But when my students are doing Aleks, they are writing the problems, at least in class, on whiteboards. So they're doing that same type of work. They're just entering their final answer into Aleks. I don't know why, but they're more motivated by the whiteboards than pencil and paper. Perhaps it's the color. But when they do it at home, then they are doing work on pencil and paper. They're still borrowing. They're still cross-canceling. It's just the final answer goes into Aleks. So it's not, an all electronic based program. It's not multiple choice. They have to figure it out without guessing.
I feel like the biggest question that parents were getting or that were asking was, well, what are you doing if Aleks is the one teaching the students? And I feel like my response to that is that I'm still teaching the lessons, but Aleks is the one helping them practice and then creating the assessments for them based on their individual needs. If anything, in the classroom, I am meeting students' needs on an individual basis way better than I ever was in previous years because I know exactly what they need. So, like I said, I had 5 lessons yesterday to meet kids' needs instead of just one like you would typically see in a math class.
Well, I would say there's a couple. First, that the teacher no longer teaches, which is not true because using Aleks, you actually teach a lot different concepts every period, so it kind of stretches you as a teacher more than it used to, where you had your one plan and you only had to be prepared for one type of question. And I would say the second myth is that we don't see how the students can progress. In other words, the parents don't realize that we can see if a student is logged in, how long they logged in, what they were working on, and we have that immediate feedback.
Well, some of the myths are that the teacher isn't really teaching anymore and isn't really needed. And I would say that it's pretty opposite of that because I teach a lot more than I did before. Instead of teaching one topic at a time to the kids, I'm answering all different questions, and I'm teaching kids one-on-one all different topics. So it's really still teaching. The kids, they still ask questions, and it's just on a whole different scale. One of the other myths about the program is that the kids are just on the computer all day, and that's pretty much what they do. And there's not a lot of bells and whistles to the program. A lot of kids, some of the myths is that it's just boring and just plain math, and it's not something necessarily that's going to entertain them, because it doesn't have a lot of those exciting things, but it's in place of our textbook. And so instead of the kids sitting down and doing 20 problems out of the textbook, instead they're doing it in an interactive way where they get that immediate feedback. So instead of going home and doing 20 problems and doing them all wrong, they come here, or they go at home and they do one problem, and it shows them if they got it wrong or not. And so it's really interactive to where they can fix their mistake so quickly before making it again, and then continue to do it the right way. So.
Myth. The teacher is taken out of the equation. Reality. The teacher is a constant in the equation. I think the idea is my child is expected. I think parents are a little leery of it, as I was myself, having done it my way for 30 years. Now I'm going to change instantly. The parents are afraid perhaps that their child is expected to do the work on his or her own without any guidance from the teacher, who will apparently be sitting at a desk somewhere just clicking on Aleks problems for the child to do. Reality, the teacher's really interacting far more with the students, and grouping. I don't think there'd be anyone who would argue students are going to learn best if they can be in a small group setting or an individualized setting. First grade, second grade, third grade, when I taught those levels, we taught in reading groups, we taught in math groups. Somehow at the middle school, that doesn't always work as fluidly. This is taking them back to having math groups, and I believe that that's where the most success is. I don't think anybody would question that that works really well for their kindergartner, first grader, second grader. It works really well for a 6th grader, 7th grader, 8th grader to have that much attention on an individual problem that he or she is being asked to solve. The other myth is that Aleks is the only thing we're ever going to do in math, and that's far from the truth also. Those enrichment and problem solving and problem-based real-world kinds of problems, we're still creating for them. We're going outside today. We did, yesterday in class we did proportions, and today we're going outside to measure the flagpole, and they're going out with no directions to measure the flagpole except a meter stick and their paper, pencil, and calculators. And I would predict that it won't take nearly as long for them to figure out we're going to use a proportion and we're going to measure the shadow and we're going to find the height of the flagpole. So it isn't always we're behind a computer, which is what I think perhaps some of the thoughts and concerns are.
There are some students that tested in with fewer standards mastered on the pretest than other students, and I think some parents might be discouraged by that this first checkpoint that they have is a big jump for them. There are a lot of standards to cover. Each checkpoint won't be like that. We based it off of an average, so this first one is a big jump for some students, but they don't actually have to have all those standards done by that checkpoint. The checkpoints are a plan to try and accomplish the overall goal. So maybe they don't meet the first goal on that date, but they will reach the first goal eventually. So it just might take them a little more time, but they'll get there.
Well, I would say that one of the most valuable tools is whenever you push the average report, you can see the average for the class, the topics that they're ready to learn. So I can look at a concept and say, oh, I've got 20 students that need to learn that, so I can teach those 20 students that, and then I can go on to another topic and make sure that each child learns 5 or 6 new topics a period. And that's a lot more valuable to them than it used to be.
I think people need to know that we as teachers did not go into this thinking, wow, here's a computer that will do our work for us. And we didn't go into it without reservations. And it was thought out, well thought out for a length of time and piloted for a length of time. And I'm going to go by what West colleagues told me. They had students who had never been successful passing pass I-STEP. They had success in NWEA testing that showed huge gains by percentages that are unfathomable, really. What was quoted to me doesn't even seem realistic, and yet it was true. And I think the third thing, I think it gives kids ultimate confidence. They will walk away saying, we do a lot of math. Yes, it's really hard. And I think it's hard because as a teacher, I would have said, it looks like you've got mastery on this, and we would have moved on. And I might not know that doesn't really exist. Aleks keeps spiraling back, and if it's not there, we're gonna review it again before we move on.
I think one of the best things about the program is that it finds the kids where they are, and it helps them to get caught up if they're behind, and if they're ahead, it lets them keep going. So I think it reaches all of the kids at the same time. The kids who usually would be lost, the kids who usually would be bored, it just reaches them all and has them each steadily progressing and advancing in their skills. One of the things that I've noticed is how the kids always ask me questions where so many times they would be hesitant to do it before because they didn't want to hold the class up, or they didn't want to ask a question and feel silly in front of the class. And now it's like questions are a good thing because everyone's asking them, and if they're asking them, it means that they're learning and they're going to higher level things, and so it's a good thing to ask questions. And also the fact that the kids are always learning something every day, that a kid doesn't leave without mastering a topic. And so they're having success every day. And one of the biggest things that I've always noticed with the kids in math is that if their self-confidence is lowered, if they fail at something and they don't understand it, they kind of shut down, and it's hard for them to get pulled back up for even the next question. And so this gives them success after success, and so then it makes them feel like they really can do the math because they keep moving forward.